Thank you to Shopify, Home Chef, and Chime for sponsoring this episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of You Can Sit With Us. My name is Maggie. I am one of your hosts, and I am joined today by Becky.
Hello.
We got Rainie on the ones and twos.
Hello.
And we have a very special guest, Mr. Perez. Whee!
Yay!
Thank you so much for coming on today. We had you on not too long ago, but we wanted to bring you back because it was such a popular episode.
Wow. I love podcasting. It's just chatting.
And people are very excited for your upcoming show.
Yes, let's talk about it.
Let's chat the show. The show's out. If you're not already subscribed to Second Try, get on in there.
Yes.
Speaking of things you can subscribe to, you can also get this podcast a day early, ad-free, on patreon.com/tryguys.
Woo.
Woo!
So we teased it on the last time you were on, but your show has now come out on the streamer.
Yes.
Tell us what it is. Why'd you want to do it?
Yes, it's called New Guy Tries, or maybe something else, depending on what we land on.
We'll ADR this.
Yeah, we'll ADR. It's called... Yeah, I wanted to do it. I mean, this show is kind of actually how I got involved again with the Try Guys. I was talking to Zach randomly, and we went out and I was talking about my experience as a trans guy and how kind of funny it's been and how interesting. And Zach was like, that's like a show. You should do a show of that. And then we talked about some version of, he was saying he's been wanting to bring more queer people into the Try Guy, especially with Eugene like leaving, and he told me that most of the Try Guys audience is queer. Hi, guys. Hi, queers.
I feel like this is the second time because when we had Johnny on, we also said hi to our gay fans.
Yes, hi, gays.
Hi, gay fans.
The gays always have to say hi to the gays. It's just like how it is, like a little wink. But, and so we talked about this, and then kind of as that was happening, the whole Second Try thing was happening, and then adding the whole cast. And so that happened first, but really this was the impetus for it all. And I just wanted to do a show so New Guy Tries is a show that explores masculinity from the perspective of a trans man, a new guy, if you will, trying things out. But really it kind of became like a secret show to have all of the cis guys talk about their masculinity. And so they had no idea because the episodes are like, New Guy Tries hanging out, where I like did a poker game, but that whole conversation, that was like with Rainie Popkin and Miles. And that whole conversation quickly just became about fatherhood and how like terrifying fatherhood was for them, and like post in the mid of betting, and like, so I'd be like, so what's it like being a new dad? And then 20 seconds later, you cut to like Chris Rainie being like, it was the scariest moment of my life. And Miles being like, I haven't cried. My brother died and I stopped crying until my baby was born. And it was like, and then Nick was a producer. He was like, I've never heard any of these guys say any of this stuff. And so it was actually,
gave me goosebumps.
I know.
It was beautiful. Like
also,
it was,
like having the space to kind of let that happen.
Yeah. And what I found is like women have all examined femininity because of the patriarchy and understand the gender roles that we're made to play, mainly because I always say we when I talk about women because just emotionally, but women have had to examine their role in patriarchy. And so women have a much better understanding of where they've landed in their own gender expression, their own femininity, and their own sexuality. Whereas like men have such a rigid version of masculinity. I cannot tell you, every guy I talk to, all of them were like, well, I'm not a man's man because I don't play sports. Like
you're like, that's your number one qualifier to be a man's
that's
man.
It. I did not talk to one man also who was completely confident in his manhood. And the things that...
And how did that make you feel? Do you feel like you've been pulled in different directions just based on this show and like the experiences and conversations that you've been having?
Absolutely. I mean, this show was actually really terrifying for me to do. Like it was scary because I had been afraid of masculinity for so long. I mean, part of the reason that I know transness is real and a thing and not a choice is because I would never choose to be a man. Like, if I had felt okay in my body, I would have stayed a woman because I loved being a woman, like every part of it emotionally, and the culture of feminism and sisterhood. Like, I love my sorority sisters. I love getting together with women, and I'm terrified of men and male culture. And the only reason I transitioned was because I didn't feel right in my body as a woman. But like, emotionally, I would have gladly stayed in girlhood land forever. And like, you know, no one wants to be in the Mojo Dojo Casa house. Everyone wants to be there. Everybody wants. You think you do, and then like Ken said, when you find out it's not about horses so much, you're like, this is shit. But yeah, it really reminded me that men are, I mean, this is going to sound silly and I'll probably get hate for it, but it's like men are people too, and men have feelings that
that did make me
right?
chuckle.
And you know, like, you guys are in partners with men, but it's like, I never dated men. I was in a sorority. I found that men actively, because they didn't know what to get from me because I wasn't attracted to them. I was often like made fun of by boys, or if I got close to the girls that they had crushes on, they would like be mean to me. And so I felt really no utility for men, and it made me feel very isolated from it. So it's like, my experience with men is so little, you know? And then my male figures in my life, my dad and my abuelo and my grandfather, all of them died. I have 6 aunts. I have 6 blood-related aunts, no blood uncles. So my family is so female-dominated. Like, wow. I just have so little experience with men. And so it really, and my thoughts going into this, I found that like my perspective changed a lot, and it was just as much an experiment for me, because by the end I realized that so much of my fear around men had stopped me from trying to engage with them on a one-on-one level where I could understand their perspective on things. But it was like, sorry, deep.
That was fucking deep.
But I will say, like, the thing that, the other part of the show that I wanted is like, it's just as stupid as it is profound. Like,
yeah,
I did not want to approach transness as oftentimes it's this very heavy subject because it's a very politicized thing. But it's like, for trans people, it's just our life and who we are. And there's so much funny shit that happens as a trans guy. Like, even the rules of the bathroom, there's like sketches within the show. And there's one sketch, and most of them are based off real life moments. So like, I saw Zach in the bathroom and clapped him on the back while he was peeing at the urinal. And afterward, I was like, I don't think I was supposed to do that. He's like, no, we really don't touch or talk in the bathroom.
The bathroom is the private time.
But like, with girls, like, I've made so many friends in bathrooms.
Yeah, the culture of women's restrooms is so different.
Especially if you're drunk and 22.
Oh my God.
Some girls crying. I remember so specifically being at, what's the bar downtown that has the big tree in the middle of it?
Oh, it starts with a C?
Yeah, Clifton's.
Clifton's.
Yep. I was in there once, and it was a girl's 25th birthday, and she was like, my life is over. I'm 25. And then all the girls around her were like, girl, it's okay. And then by the end, everyone was like hugging, and then she like threw up, which was also appropriate. But
I mean, that usually happens.
Yeah, that's girlhood.
Girlhood. I did like that there was a lot of levity to the episode, because I think I talked about this before when I was talking about why I love Heartstopper so much.
Yes.
So much of queer media is so fucking sad.
Yes.
And it's not to say that sad things don't happen, because they absolutely do. But if that's the only representation that's coming in is sad, horrible.
Yep.
Like, what's that saying to the next generation of kids?
Literally, it's like boys don't cry, or, you know, or I'm thinking of like so much of the representation of trans people is literally being serial killers or people who are like
not
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs.
Or is it Silence? Yeah, Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo
Bill. So we just don't see the like, you know, I wanted to bring my whole self to it. So it's like, it's awkward, it's funny, it has that heart, and it was so fascinating. And Keith, like I realized I've known Keith just as long as I've known Zach, but we haven't had a lot of like one-on-one interactions. And Have you seen the episode with Keith?
No,
No.
we
I don't
just
think
saw the
they've-
first
yeah,
one.
I didn't get the link.
I was
Yeah.
like watching it, and Keith came in and he's like, "Who gave you that cut?" I was like,
Who gave you that?
I was like, "Am I in trouble?" He's like, "No, I just didn't know where you got it." And I was like, "Oh, it was leaked online. I stole it.
I broke into
I'm
your
a hacker."
email.
It's on second try right now.
Yeah, right.
Actually, I just realized we haven't started editing the Keith episode, so you wouldn't have seen it. I haven't seen it. But my conversation with Keith was so like moving and fast. It was the one that made me want to cry the most because I could see Keith as a dad, and he was talking about how with his dad, the other premise of this show is that I don't have my dad. I lost my dad. And so much of masculinity is learned from your dad or your grandfather or your brother. But my sibling is trans. So I've lost literally any connection that I have. And I talked to almost all the guys inadvertently about fatherhood or how they learn their masculinity. And Keith was telling me about with his dad, it was a lot of just not so much active teaching, but like, you just watch me do this thing and learn through osmosis. And then I noticed, and then I noticed as we were doing it, I was like, oh, that is absolutely what Keith was doing. He he was just like, he wasn't actually like, okay, come over here and do that. Like a few times he was like, why don't you throw that on there? Why don't you flip that on there? But really it was just me watching him. And it reminded me so much of me with my dad. Like just standing there and then I could picture Henry and like see. And then Keith got deep about like his body issues. He was talking about like working out and how he doesn't feel like, you know, how he wants his upper body to be bigger. And
It's always his arms.
Yes.
He's nobody knows this. He never wears like tank tops or anything.
I know.
He really thinks his arms are like, that's his like source of
but I
pain.
never
We would
would
have
have
never
known
known.
that.
No.
Like who would have? And I think
I have calf envy of Keith.
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
He does have
hey,
some gams.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah, I got these are genetic, unfortunately.
Oh, darn.
Yeah, you can't get them.
Not blessed.
You got to get that the genetics of them. But like those are things that I was like, when would I ever have talked to Keith about body insecurities and just knowing that cis men have just as many of the same feelings of worry as trans men do. And it's because they don't have a place to talk about it. Like in the end, we all have in the last episode a big conversation with like most of the guys who are in the series. And Miles was saying, you know, these are all thoughts that I've had, but not had a space to talk about. And then they kind of all agreed of like, yeah, I do too. And I think most men only their space to get emotional typically is with a female partner, and gay men with a partner too. But like, it's just a different world and a different setup. So I really learned a lot and felt like by the end of it, like one of the guys, which was really cool.
I thought it was really beautiful how obviously you talk a lot about your dad in especially the first episode. And I think before I had Henry, I would have watched that episode and felt like the empathy coming from losing a parent, like thinking about that. And since becoming a parent, all I could think is like how it's going to make me cry, how sad I am that your dad didn't get to see you in your true, because I think he would have just been so proud. And, you know, it's hard to think about your kid not feeling 100% comfortable in who they are.
Yeah.
And like, that's a really big fear of mine.
Yeah.
And I think you tapped into that really well in a way that's like relatable for parents, but also for kids that are trying to relate to their parents.
That's so interesting, that perspective of then you watching. And was it kind of like for you, like, oh God, I hope Henry grows up feeling like he can be whoever he wants to be around me.
Just the idea that you don't want your kid to be in like any kind of pain or any kind of discomfort, especially like thinking about what it must have been like for you as a kid. And like, you don't even at that age, how do you express that? How at 4 do you express that?
Yes.
And it's something that also makes me like furious about seeing transness politicized. Is like, how can you as a parent have your kid come to you and say something and then just completely dismiss it?
Yes. And
that's about their being.
And how can you even, it's like the stigmatization is crazy because even if you are a safe space for your child, you can't guarantee that the world is a safe space for them or that other people are going to agree with, there's laws being made right now that parents who do believe their kids and who affirm them can be put in fucking jail for believing their children. And it's so interesting what you're saying of like, my journey to transness happened a lot later. It was like a second coming out. It was post my dad dying, partially because my dad died. I didn't realize how much I was attached to being daddy's girl and how much I was attached to wanting to hold that special place with my dad. But the irony now, and I do have to grieve this, is that my dad, he had a heart attack before and he was trying to get healthy again. And I think about how cool it would have been now to like, my dad was fit when we were younger, when he was young and he was like, a construction worker. And I'm like, how cool would it have been for my dad and I to work out now together? And I could see my dad getting so into it and like
loving it.
Yeah, getting all jacked too again. And like, but the cool thing is, I mean, this is a weird part of transness that I didn't expect. Like there's so many healing moments in becoming yourself, because literally the more I become myself, the more I see my dad. Like my dad's face is coming out in my genetics. So I look in the mirror now
you see it.
and I see my dad. Whereas like my whole life people have been like, oh, you look like your mom. And I didn't really see how I looked like my dad. And now I can see, and that's really cool.
I remember when I was furnishing my first apartment, I just was trying every sort of way to get my home to look as close to my Pinterest board as possible. So I was scouring Facebook Marketplace to make sure that I got some really cute rugs and artwork. You know how every dollar counts. With a Chime checking account, you can save more money and take control of your finances with features like no maintenance fees, fee-free overdraft for up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with early direct deposit. Get started today at chime.com/sitwithus. Chime helps you make progress with fee-free overdraft for up to $200. Get spotted on debit card purchases and cash withdrawals. No monthly fees or maintenance fees. Chime never charges fees or interest for using SpotMe. Get a head start on working towards your financial goals with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/sitwithus. That's chime.com/sitwithus. Chime. Feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. members FDIC. SpotMe eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Boosts are available to eligible Chime members enrolled in SpotMe and are subject to monthly limits. Terms and conditions apply. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. Hello, overwhelmed foodies. Are you drowning in a sea of meal kit options, feeling like you're in a bad dating game with every contestant looking the exact same? Fear not, because amidst the chaos, there's one shining star worth your culinary affection, and that's Home Chef. Home Chef provides fresh ingredients and chef-designed recipes conveniently delivered to your doorstep to simplify your cooking experience. Home Chef has over 30 options a week and serves a variety of dietary needs, so you don't have to worry about what to make ahead of time. Not only is it convenient, but it's economical too. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries alone. I recently had the sausage and mushroom stuffed peppers. It was a meal kit. It came with delicious pepperoncinis. It only took me about 30 minutes to prep, and it was super delicious. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 18 free meals plus free dessert for life, and of course, free shipping on your first box. Go to homechef.com/sitwithus. That's homechef.com/sitwithus for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. You heard that right. homechef.com/sitwithus. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
Yeah, the series is just...
It's a roller coaster.
There's a lot there. And it's the fact that you're getting such big responses from, and special responses from staff. Can you imagine the impact that it's going to have when it's live?
No, I can't. I honestly can't. And I can't imagine... I also stepped away from putting my life online because when it first happened at BuzzFeed, it was it was accidental. And then I didn't understand the ramifications of it. And then getting older and stepping away from it was a nice respite. But then to some degree in my transness, I was wondering I felt like I don't want to come out again. Jesus Christ. Like, let's not be extra and come out a second time. But then I did realize that like at what happened at BuzzFeed, the way people become comfortable being themselves in the world is by seeing someone else in the world being themselves, and in all situations, in all instances. So it's I did feel kind of an obligation, and it was very healing in the same way that it was healing to come out on BuzzFeed Violet, to come out again here and like show myself to the world, and to it was so cool to with the Try Guys cast to be able to hang with them too,
because you synthesize obviously a lot in your personal, but then being able to synthesize further with others that love and care about you. And
like with Kwesi, in the first episode, that Kwesi's just he's such a funny dude. When
that whole part, I was like,
I know.
So sweet. He gets so sweet, but then at the same time, he's like, nice forearms, man. You look hydrated. And I'm like, Kwesi, who are you? Like,
it was like a beautiful moment. He's like, you're strong.
You're strong. You look good, man. And then also just having Kwesi there, but then completely unexpectedly, him being like, I'm so happy and honored to be part of this journey with you. I was like, what?
Did you think people wouldn't want to be a part of it? Or was there any worry about, I don't know, shit they might say?
There wasn't worry so much internally about the Try Guys wanting to be a part of it, obviously, and Keith and Zach were so on board. And there was an interesting moment even beforehand where Nick and I kind of developed we got the go ahead, and then we developed the concept further by ourselves. And then when we brought it to Keith and Zach, there was a moment where it was, differing opinions on how to kind of tell this story. And I was feeling a little bit discouraged. And then it was interesting, they took a day, and Zach came back and was like, you know what? I realized this isn't my story to tell. You tell the story the way that you want to, in the way that feels best for you. And that was such a cool moment too of really, not only is it important for trans people to be able to be seen, but it's important for us to be able to tell the stories the way that we want, because even though we are talking about masculinity, it was through the perspective of a trans man versus through a cis man. And it was really cool that they gave me the space to do it the way that I wanted to. But yeah, there was definitely fear of there's always a fear of kind of disclosure of, I don't know how safe it is to talk about with the suiting guy or with but the more you talk about it, the more people kind of just realize that you're just like everyone else. I think we're afraid because everything is so politicized about the otherness of people of well, I don't know what it means to be trans. And what was so interesting actually was gender affirming care is not just for trans people. Even talking to Keith about how he doesn't like his arms, it's that's dysphoria, that's body dysphoria or dysmorphia, of and that's not just something that trans people go through. It's something that cis people go through too, because we have these standards of masculinity and femininity that obviously aren't going to fit every body. So yeah, it was really fun and it was really dumb. And there's more episodes coming down the pipeline. The next one is poker, and then drag brunch. So it was hanging out, gay guys versus straight guys. And then Keith teaches me how to make meat. We made a lot of meat. And then I did CrossFit with Ryan. That was fucking insane.
Oh my God.
Crazy. He posted a picture the other day and I literally showed Keith and I was like, Jesus Christ.
He's insane.
I literally had that same phenomena. I was like, this man's going to live forever.
Yes.
He's one of those guys that you would think didn't wear shoes, goes barefoot around the world. He doesn't. And he has, but he seems like it.
Yeah. Oh, and he has perfect arches. And he's every time we all get together for Try Guys, everyone starts pigging out on the snacks immediately. And then Ryan is just drinking his Diet Coke. That's his only indulgence is a Diet Coke.
Yeah, he is very disciplined.
Yeah,
that
wait until you guys see him fucking climbing ropes. And we had to scale the wall
Oh, wow.
There was one point where
wall?
There's not a wall where I could do it here. Yeah, this woman starts. We went to a female-owned CrossFit gym, which was interesting.
that's dope.
But we literally, I don't know how to describe it. You just put your legs up and then you climb backwards up the wall and then like
Spider-Man?
do it's insane.
Will you be back?
No. No.
That was
You
the end of
tried
that.
No.
Okay, so the 3 parts are like there's kind of a try guy-ish, like but it is a different flavor of like you're trying to getting a haircut, like you're going to the barbershop, you're trying to go to CrossFit. And then there's these sketches, and then there's the sort of Amy Poehler masterclass-esque. So tell me about like that whole experience. Where were you? How did it get organized? How did you prepare?
Yeah.
And how did it fit in the
I was wondering when I watched, I was like, who are these people?
Yeah.
I was like, where did these people come from?
And then there was like the Kunk on Earth, the beginning character of
yeah.
me. We called it the man wall, where we literally just had like
mustache.
man
I
things
loved
up
it.
on the wall. Yeah, that was another big part when we were talking about the production of it, of like, this is Try Guys fans will recognize it, but I do think it feels different. And the hardest thing I think was that for most of the guys to adapt to is we were shooting it more like a documentary than unscripted video where you look at the camera and you get a punch zoom. So like everybody and the Try Guys cast is so used to making jokes and looking at the camera and like knowing where the camera is and what their moment is. But that we were kind of more just like observing us being dudes. And so that was an interesting thing. And then with the sketches, also trying to figure out how those go in. The Amy Poehler masterclass thing was based off of Amy Poehler's masterclass. I just thought it was so cool the way that she did that, where she basically, Amy Poehler, I love her because her humility. She's like, I know I'm an expert in improv and comedy and all that stuff, but like she doesn't like to present herself that way. So the whole masterclass thing is a way to have a conversation versus like a TED Talk. And I didn't want to be giving a TED Talk on masculinity. So that section, I wanted to be interacting. It was supposed to be more male, but it ended up, because of the Try Guys fans, being more like female, non-binary. But that was actually really interesting too, because that was the other side of the perspective that we hadn't had. So we got like 25 fans from like the Discord who came out and just had conversations with us. And that on its own, we could release as a special. It was like 2.5 hours of the most fascinating conversation and like heartbreaking conversation. Cause it's just women talking about like their perspective on what the world feels like. And it's so true. Like one of the most upsetting things is like, I am not afraid anymore physically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I like can walk around. I could go through alleyways. The only thing you're worried about is, not even in LA really getting robbed. You're like maybe afraid of if someone has mental health issues. But like as a woman, I was constantly afraid I was going to get assaulted, murdered, and chopped up. Like that is just a real thing.
Kidnapped.
Yeah,
Fully
kidnapped.
kidnapped.
Yeah, kidnapped. We all watch the Oprah of like, don't go to the second location or you're dead, basically.
Yeah. We all know the bear versus man phenomena.
Yeah.
In
Oh
hiking.
my God.
Always the bear.
Always the bear.
Always the bear.
Bears have cute ears.
They're so cute.
And you felt that immediately, like it didn't, because I thought that there was some conditioning. But as soon as I will say, one time I went for a run with my neighbor's German Shepherd, and I was like, I'm totally safe.
Yeah.
So maybe it is that fast. I don't know.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It really is. As soon as you're not presenting female in some way, because the other thing with femininity that's such a mind fuck is like the more female you're presenting, it seems like the world takes it as an invitation to mess with you. And so, but it's like any kind of man can, you could have a slutty man walking down the street. I could walk without my shirt. But that's not an invitation to bother me or accost me. And it is pretty immediate. And it's funny because my girlfriend is taller than me, but I have noticed now I am the person that when we go out together, she doesn't get bothered. And I'm like, that is so stupid. I'm like so tiny. Like, what am I going to do? But like, dudes just respect like, oh, you're another dude and I respect you, which is so stupid.
Yeah, what are some secrets you've learned that you can share with us, cis
oh,
women
yeah.
in the room?
Yes.
Like, what are the secrets of the men?
They
you've
can
learned?
be silent Not me particularly. I'm working on that. But
I did love that part of the episode because I was like, oh my God, he's talking so much. And I was like, that would absolutely, like me at a haircut.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, let me tell you my entire birth story.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll do this the entire time.
Yep,
You
just
have to
chatting.
fill the space.
No, men are just like, they're quiet and it doesn't bother them.
Mm-hmm.
What are the secrets of manhood? This is a good question. I mean, bathroom culture sucks for men. That's something women should know that and appreciate, that like women have the best bathroom culture ever. Men, it's pretty disgusting.
I heard, have you found a toilet without a seat yet?
Oh yeah. You know there's no mirrors in half the bathrooms I go to?
No,
Oh, I hate
mirrors.
that.
Yeah.
I'm
But
a
the no
bird.
toilet seat so
Yeah.
that you won't poop. So people are just walking around full of poop.
Yeah. Or they just like it
just doesn't bother them.
men's bathrooms, no matter where you are like prisons. Seriously. Like it's horrible. Another thing I didn't know, do you know that guys are on their phones at the urinal? It's insane.
They're not there for very long.
disgusting.
They just like whip their dick out and then will stand, sometimes two-handers or people no hands, sometimes just on there. And I was like, and men do not wash their hands as much as
So do they
should.
stand there longer
That's
than they
They
pee?
stand there and they like,
God,
yeah.
stay.
Because they also have it's very funny, my theory is that men, if they didn't have to, wouldn't want to pee in urinals near each other. Like it's
yeah.
not natural, because the funniest thing, sometimes you'll go in and it's completely quiet and it's because they're shy. And somebody has to like break the barrier. So you just see like 6 men standing in a row.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing happening, no noise, and then I go in there. I'm used to, I go to the stalls, but as soon as I need to go. So I'll start peeing and then I hear all of them like,
No way. Really?
yeah.
I hate that.
I know. It's so funny.
No.
They don't talk to each other. The handshake, there's like an easier way. I don't know if men don't suss each other out in the same way that girls are just like levels and levels and levels above of like the way women interact is like chess, and men, I wouldn't even say it's checkers. It's like
They don't even
jacks or
It's dice.
something. Yeah, dice. It's just, hey, bro. Hey, man. Hey, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's a lot of,
uncoordination.
yeah, and a lot of like physical,
I don't know what to say.
I do think asking, like, whenever I ask Keith about, I saw it on TikTok of like a trend of people asking their partner about like important events in their friends' lives.
Oh, yeah.
And Keith is very much, I'll be like, someone will get engaged. I'll be like, oh, how did they do it? And I'll be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
What?
So he told you they got engaged in the US, no follow-up question?
Yes.
Or like someone dies and I'm like, oh my God,
What
like how's
happened?
XYZ? Yeah. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I just found I'm like, what do you talk about?
They don't. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of razzing. Although they did say in the poker episode, the second one, that, it became a deeper discussion. And I was like, oh, sorry if that's not your typical poker talk. And they were like, actually, it kind of is. Like, what I found is that the reason men do so many activities is because it is a segue for them to talk to each other. And I also think, sadly, that's why alcohol is involved in so much. I drank more doing this than I have for like years, because there's also, in order to get to that level and that bonding, in order to have that superficial bonding kind of quickly, like alcohol and activity helps. And I think a lot of men were talking about how it can be isolating for them too if they don't want to be drinking with their friends, or if they don't want to, like, how do guys find activities that aren't just based on that? Because if I'm hanging out with my girlfriends, we can go to dinner, we can go for a walk and have nothing and just like talk for 3 hours. But you don't just like
Go out.
go on for a walk. Like,
With your bros.
yeah.
Go on
your
a walk
bros.
with your broskis.
You want to go get a donut?
Yeah, literally.
I think that's a very, I don't know if it's, other big city thing, but I think LA especially, for both men and women, is drinking culture.
Yeah.
Is like, that is huge of like, what are we going to do? What are we going to drink? Blah, 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 blah. Like the list goes on.
Keith was talking about that specifically, about wanting to have more male interactions where it's not just drinking, and trying to find activity-based
Third
things.
spaces.
Yeah, third spaces, like bowling, or,
That's his favorite.
Yep.
He's always like, should we go bowling? I'm like, I guess.
Mini golfing?
Yep.
Yeah.
But now that it's 150 degrees outside, we have to do indoor spaces.
Yeah.
Indoor third spaces.
Was there anything? I'm curious for you guys who watched it. What was the most surprising thing for you watching it?
Oh, I've got this locked and loaded.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Ray
I think, well, first of all, I think we have been talking about the serious parts. It was pretty much like funny and silly until the last maybe 3 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I was like locked in, chuckling. Like it was goofy.
Yeah.
And then I also was thinking a lot about like stereotypes, quote unquote. And then I was like, well, I guess that's all like gender is. It's kind of just like all this series of stereotypes of like, is it really that masculine to go to CrossFit? Like, I guess, yeah. But also like, I don't know. It's all fabricated. I think that's what I was like gnawing on. Like as these like silly, like goofy things were happening, I was like, huh, this is like I was really like coming to terms with how fabricated gender is. And then I think it kind of hit at the end when Kwesi, spoilers, but like you guys have this really nice moment, and then you hug, and he's like, and you're like, is this how men hug? Like, how do men hug? And he was like, just like this. And it was so, that was what made me tear up, because I was like, it is just human. At the end of the day, it's like you're giving a hug. It's what both genders and all genders do. So I think that's what stood out. I loved it, by the way.
Oh,
Full plug. Absolutely go watch it. Subscribe. Second try.
Yes, you
One of
sent
my
me the
favorites.
nicest text message, and I was like, "Oh, this is so sweet."
I texted Nick, and then I was like, I think I have to text Ash too.
I liked learning some of the more technical aspects. Like I love that conversation you had with the audience member about being on testosterone. Because that's something I feel like people throw out the hormone replacement therapy. Like you literally only hear about it in the news from like whatever. So I thought it was just interesting to hear about the like kind of second puberty and the being sweaty, horny, and hairy. Like I thought that was really interesting. And I don't think I don't know if it's like people on the right don't think about the like actual struggle your physical body goes through to transition.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's stupid.
I think people only think about bathrooms.
It's always bathrooms.
Which is like, by the way, I will just say it to anybody now. All trans people want is to pee in the bathroom.
Oh,
That's it. Just like everyone else. When you gotta pee, you gotta pee. And that has become actually one of the sadder, harder things that like I have realized of just losing that safe space. I'll literally spend so much more time thinking about like, do I have to go to the bathroom here beforehand? I'll look up if places have gender neutral restrooms, because 90% of the time, if there's only one stall and it's some man blowing it up in there.
Oh boy.
Like, you do not want to go into the stall after whatever man has been sitting there in the Barnes & Noble stall for.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You do not want to.
Is there an aggregated safe space to do that sort of like or have you just kind of plugged and played?
So Yelp has some options now that say if places have gender neutral restrooms, and then but yeah, like to Rainie, to your point, that is so true. It's like 90% of the show is silly and you'll be laughing watching it. And it's like, it's an exploration of gender, not through just these deep conversations. Like the deep conversations come, I think, after the actions. Everybody afterward told me, I've never thought about that before. But what we're actually doing is like at a drag brunch or playing poker or getting our hair cut. Like, we're not just sitting, it's not round table talk where we're just sitting around talking about these things.
That's what I thought it was going to be when the show was initially kind of in the speaking. So like seeing the third activity to synthesize the conversations, I thought was really well done and well thought out.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see more.
I know. Me too.
Yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the episodes.
We shall see. What should we try next?
Oh, anything on
what
your...
do you want to try?
We didn't, because of production. We wanted to culminate the last episode with everybody playing paintball, all the guys playing paintball.
Oh my gosh.
But then after that, going into like, that was supposed to be about like strength, but then I wanted to bamboozle all the guys into having a girls' night and have all the try guys, ladies, like you guys included, teach them how to have a girls' night, where like the actual scariest thing is just being vulnerable. So it's like they can take shots all day and be like, I'm a man, but I wanted them to be like, and now we're all just going to sit around and talk. So I think there's a lot of things that I want to try moving forward, but like I am curious if we get to do more episodes, like what the show will evolve into and like what it will become.
Yeah, I mean, it's Try Guys.
Yeah.
You're a guy trying something.
I am.
I think at a certain point, and I do think we are seeing this happening in media more and more, where someone's sexuality or gender is not the main focus of their entire character.
Yeah.
You can just be a trans person that exists and acting in a show, not about how you're trans,
Yes.
but just that you are a person. And so I think that's what I would like to see is because then you'll have this whole foundation of the audience watching and growing with you and having it be something that they're noodling on and thinking about. But then as it goes on, you're just a guy trying stuff.
I know, which is the whole point. I am excited to see that separate from this, but I am excited for like, it's been really fun watching the legacy season of all of them trying stuff for the last time. But I'm like, it'll be interesting to see when the new Try Guys start trying stuff. And with Zach and Keith, I feel like they're going to be like our senseis of like, oh, we've tried everything.
We've been here.
We'll teach you how to try things.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting. I know the guys have talked about it before about feeling like they have tried everything.
Yeah.
But I think in a grander sense, they mean that they're not, like you were talking about the formula, about how it's looking. And I think that's what they mean by they've tried everything. It's not a new experience. Even if it is a new experience that they're walking into, there is a formula that they shoot with. And there's a way that they're used to talking to camera. They know this is the beginning. I'm going to talk about my relationship with this. I'm going to talk about what I learned. And then this will get cut with this. And they're thinking about all that. And I love that the new cast of Try Guys doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be more, not genuine, because I do think they were genuine when they were firefighting and doing these like legacy season things, but seeing you and the rest of the cast experiencing things.
Yeah. And that
genuinely
format.
and in that format.
And we don't have to, unlike the guys, we don't have to think about the producing and
Absolutely.
they're literally thinking about the edit as they're going. And like, I could see how good they have gotten at this because they were already great at BuzzFeed. It's like what made them the Try Guys pop in the beginning. But when Zach hopped in on notes and when Keith hopped in on notes, they were such good notes and so dialed in immediately to what it needed to be. And I'm like, oh, it's because their brains are constantly here. They're never not shooting where they're not editing too. And so I do think you're right. It'll be interesting to see the new cast because we're just allowed to walk on set as talent and just like actually be like, well, I don't know what the fuck when this is coming out or what we're gonna edit it with or who's gonna do what. It's just like, where's lunch? What am I trying next?
Where's the lunch email?
Literally to this today, I was like, Leslie, I didn't get the lunch email.
Like,
I'm
wait a
staying
minute.
for lunch.
Well, it's not till 1:30 today. Did she tell
She
you
did
that?
tell me
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
She told us. And
We got the
sad
link
as
and we're
well.
like, oh no.
You're like, are we going to be here for 1:30?
Okay.
I'm staying afterward to edit the show, actually. So.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I do love
With
that
Liam.
hands-on approach that you have
Yeah.
with this show too. Like,
Yeah.
kind of how you're talking about the difference between the Try Guys, the way that they're producing and being in something.
Yeah.
This is your baby that you're cultivating,
It is.
but you also are going to have these other projects that you don't have to think in that brain space for. And I think that lets you have more creativity and more freedom. Which I mean, BuzzFeed, no freedom.
Yeah. It's the difference between like at BuzzFeed, you would get pulled in to do a taste test or somebody else's video. And that was so nice because you just have to sit there and like say, it's like this. Oh, do you want to do the podcast? Sure. It's not my responsibility to like get everything going. But with this show, there was more of that sense. But Nick was so great because we talked about on the process, like I want to be involved in the pre-production, but day of, I very much like handed over the reins to Nick as much as possible because I wanted to be able to be present in the moment too and not be directing and not be, you know, I very much gave it to Nick to see what he was seeing and the rest of the guys
And you have
too.
like a writing background as well. Like how did that play into it? Because you are a very talented writer.
Thank you. I wrote all the dumb little sketches in the beginning. So I wrote the sketches with Amanda Holland and then I wrote all the like man wall stuff. So the beginning of each episode is that kind of like Kunk on Earth character. So I was able to write those. So it felt really nice to be able to bring all parts of myself personally and professionally into this process because ever since leaving BuzzFeed, it is hard to get people to view you and trust you as the creative that you know you are, because in Hollywood, someone is either just talent and they have no idea what's going on behind the camera, or vice versa. And that is not our experience at BuzzFeed. So it was also so nice to get, like, I've had shows get greenlit before, but you have to basically teach the executives to trust you. But Zach and Keith know that I can do it too. So they were like, go for it, you know? And I think they were happy too, to be like, oh, we don't have to be in the beginning of every, you know, they shoulder so much of having to be in every brainstorm, every ideation. And, you know, not as much anymore, because everyone here at the company has like proven themselves and taken on so much of a bigger role. But I think it was probably nice for them too, to be like, okay, we don't have to explain to you what a viral video is.
Yeah, sure. You've got Key and Peele, you got Faye and Polar, you got Keith and Zach. What about the perfect duo when it comes to growing your business? That's you and Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real life store stage, all the way to did we just hit 1 million orders stage? Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling local teas or homegrown olive oil, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, up to 36% better compared to other leading commerce platforms. What I love about Shopify is no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Plus, Shopify's extensive help resources are there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/sitwithus. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/sitwithus now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/sitwithus.
I don't know how to explain the process. I think what's nice too about not to plug the streamer again. I feel like we plug the streamer a lot.
It's gotta be plugged.
I don't think the show would have been made on a YouTube platform.
Yeah.
It would have been demonetized.
Yes.
So, and as much as we want to say like everything is beautiful, this is a creative space, like at the end of the day, it's still a business. And like people are not going to greenlight shows that are not going to make generate revenue, no matter how much they love the content and the quality of what it is. If you're only making videos that are going to get demonetized and are going to get, you know, banned or whatever, which they can be banned for the most ridiculous reasons. Like probably if you say bam, you're out of there. And it's like,
that is what is so nice about the streamer. And that's such a good point of like why, like when you're supporting the streamer, what you're supporting, it's not just like, oh, I get early access or, oh, I get, you know, like, yes, you get unedited versions of Smoke Show, which are also great, but you're getting stuff that like, this was a completely safe space for me because I knew it was going to the Try Guys audience. And it was like, the economics of it for the guys is like, oh, it makes sense for the streamer, but it doesn't have to make sense first for YouTube. And by the way, like even just being able to call it, to your point, on the streamer, we can call it New Guy Tries. And it's, yes, a show examining transness and masculinity, but it's also just my like silly show. But on YouTube, I'm sure it's going to be called like Trans Guy Gets a Suit for the first
100%.
time, which is very, and I'm okay with that, but it's very different in the perspective that you're trying to tell.
Yeah. And since it's does it give you any sort of relief that it's coming out on the streamer first as opposed to YouTube? Because I know like when I've had big conversations on the internet, I'm like, fuck, did I say something wrong? Is someone going to like write, I don't know, a horrible comment about something bad that happened to me and like exploit that?
And the Try Guys audience, like Triceratops could not be the best community ever, and so like that feels great. And then even I'm not even afraid of when it comes on YouTube because I'm like, they will shut down any transphobia so quick in the comments. Like even before like you know the Try Guys team is doing that, I feel like they are such a safe community. But yeah, I am afraid of like that is a new chapter that I'm like, okay, I am already mentally preparing for something I say about transness to get pulled out onto some stupid right-wing podcast. But that's okay. Like I accept that as part of my role as being like a public figure of, you know what, the more I'm out there, even if I hope part of this show, like gets into the conversation where people are talking about it, because I hope then people will go watch it for themselves. Because I think if you actually give it a try and watch it, you will come out with a different idea of what it means to be a trans person in this world. And so, you know, our hope is that this reaches also an audience outside of the typical Try Guys audience. And we're curious to see like who it brings in that maybe hasn't already been part of the Try Guys family. So that'll be another episode where we'll talk just the stats and stuff.
Yeah. Oh my God. Should we come back and we're like, we have the analytics, guys.
Yeah, I love analytics. Do you guys have to talk analytics with the boys at home?
No.
No? You're like, no, do not talk about that.
I just don't think it's something they bring up, or at least Keith doesn't bring up as like, this video did XYZ or whatever. It's just not not the way we talk about things.
I know. I feel like when they come home, they really don't want to. Well, Zach, sometimes it spills over, but I think he tries to, because he gets very stressed about work past like 7 p.m. So I have to make sure.
He starts getting more stressed? Like it goes back up?
Well,
like
you have
he
to
can
think
talk about
all the
work
day,
stress
you
or
know?
related stress up until like 7. And then I'll ask, I'm like, I have a question. Can I ask you maybe a stressful question? And it could be work or non-work related. And then he can say yes or no, because he does get, I don't know what it is about past 7 p.m., but he tries to not, because then I don't know what it is.
That's
Sundowners
so
or something. He's like a little old man.
He's sundowning about Try Guys. Well, I mean, to be fair, Zach did give notes on this while he was on your honeymoon.
See? See?
But he was like, I gotta get back to back. I think you guys were on a plane.
code?
Oh,
Did
okay.
you
It was
just
a
break
plane.
bro code?
Oh, I don't know. Did I break bro
Did I
code?
break? What is what? Yeah.
You probably weren't supposed to talk about
I
that.
probably wasn't.
No, I knew.
Did you? Yeah, he said I gotta
he
get
got
back to
permission.
Maggie. Yeah, I think he said I'm on a plane or something.
Yeah.
Or I'm on a...
I'm on a plane.
Oh my God, bro code. I'm so bad at this. I'm going to get kicked out of the manhood, the secret society
You're
that
gonna
I've
take your
joined.
man card back,
Which is not on camera, the secret society. But
Well, you can't. You got to bleep it.
yeah,
You
don't
gotta
worry.
bleep
It's
that.
just it's disgusting. You don't want to be there.
So you're editing too.
Well, editing with Liam, not like
okay, cool.
I can physically edit, but these puppies have been left behind with the BuzzFeed days. But
You
like,
could do it. It's probably just takes a lot more.
yeah, I'm not as fast with the quick keys, but I am also excited about that. Like if I was doing a network show, they would not let me get in with the editor
Oh yeah.
and sit. But I'm like, Liam very much is like welcoming and
So
like,
sweet.
yeah, he's like, come sit with me and
Yeah.
like, let's work with, I guess you can sit with everyone
Yeah.
at the Try Guys.
We really practice what we preach around here.
How was working with Nick?
I fucking love Nick. Nick is the best. Nick is the COO, right? For you guys who don't know. And I guess he was really excited too because as a COO, he has so many duties and hasn't gotten to be as hands-on in producing as he was before and as his background is. So I think he was having a lot of fun producing too. And like Nick was my safe space within the safe space of like being able to go to him at the end of every day and be like, what are you thinking? What did we get? And Nick was also great for like the knowledge that he brought of all of the catalog of the Try Guys. You know, it was, I didn't really know how much we had gotten stuff until like after the shoot with Miles. He was like, I have worked with Miles for like 5 years now. I've never heard him talk about his brother, or I have never heard, you know, after every talk he would be the one who was like, I've never heard Zach talk about that. I've never heard Keith talk about that. And so it was cool to just also see his perspective, and he's been working with them for so long.
Since day one.
Yeah.
Well, he's used to the formula too.
Yep.
Of like, this is what you do, this is XYZ. And a lot of people don't know he has an incredibly creative background. He's, you know, written films. I think he was working on a novel at one point. And he's also like an amazing food critic.
Yeah.
Like his way of describing things and seeing the world is very like visual and tactile.
Yep.
And I think that's what makes him a really good producer.
And
but being COO, you have to be a little more on the like technical
emails
side,
and business
emails
side and like no, he can do all of it so well. Like he was so good at getting everything secured. Like that's my least favorite part of producing because I have really bad ADHD and sending out one email gives me a panic attack. But like Nick would be like, all right, I'm going to synthesize this into a document and then send out like a 50-page Google document the next day. And I'm like, what the fuck? I literally, there was one moment where he was like, he sent me a Google Doc and he was like, do you have the picture of our brainstorm? It might as well have been like cave drawings, our brainstorm, because it was just me being like drawing arrows to like, man, juggling, ? Whatever. And I was like, and then Nick sends back this thing that was like a dissertation. And I was like, how did you get this from that? But then once he was done with that producing stuff, like he gave such incredible notes too, like really creative, really interesting notes. And we took so many references for the show that I think people would be surprised by, like the Amy Poehler masterclass, a lot of Anthony Bourdain, the way that he would approach conversations. Like I think what's so interesting about the way that he does travel is it's not kind of the Rick Steves or Samantha Brown of like, again, I am the expert and this is the thing in the history. It's just him having conversations with people from there and it gives you a sense of place. And that's what we really wanted to achieve with this. So we had that. Then we had Kunk on Earth for like the beginning. And I'm trying to think what else, but like lots of different references. So also props to Liam and Lillian and everybody who is working on the editing side, because it's also been on that side. They are used to the Try Guys format too. So like with Lillian, I'm working with her now, and I was like, we can actually have more time to breathe. It doesn't have to be so punchy. Like a lot of the notes are like joke, and then it immediately cuts to something else, because in a Try Guys video, you're just popping in between things and you're trying to make it as compact as possible. I'm like, this is a show where you want to see someone's reactions.
Yeah.
That's
well,
really
before we go, so we talked about sort of learning about masculinity and learning learning how to be a man. If you could distill, and maybe this is too hard, like into just one thing about like, what have you learned about manhood since doing the series?
I think what I learned is that there is men and women are not that different. It's just gender is a constriction around the way men are allowed to talk that made me think that men were intrinsically different than women, the way they processed. And it's not that. It's just they are only allowed to present certain sides of themselves.
Do you want to touch on, just before we leave, a little bit? So you went through most of your life female presenting and living that sort of female experience. How do you think that affects the way that you're now living in male spaces and as a male presenting person? I know you talked about safety being one, like you don't feel scared, but do you feel like you are still fighting, I would say, quote unquote, the feminine urge to talk, or the feminine urge to fill space,
not fill space, to not fill space. So emotionally to be a caretaker, I feel, but even when I'm on a plane, I'm still sitting like this instead of
Making
the dude
small.
next to me, like
Man-spread.
fully man spreading out. I say sorry a lot, and I've noticed that dudes are like, why are you saying sorry? Like, you know, when dudes if I run into another dude at the grocery store or something, it's like, excuse me, man, or like, sorry, hey, man. No, sorry. They never say sorry. And like women are constantly everything, sorry for existing.
I mean, even thinking about the way you were talking about Miles and like having conversations with Keith and Zach that were like deeper. Do you think you would have had those same conversations had you been male presenting your whole life?
No, absolutely not. Because nobody would have taught me to experience that too. And I think what is so interesting about this show, and kind of what I'm learning about transness, I think with everything that makes you different, you go through a period of shame first, like about ADHD or about being queer. It's shame to pride is the spectrum. You literally go all the way to the other side. And for me, transness, I'm still going through that process because it's relatively new, but there's a lot of shame or feeling of like being the other or being different and just not wanting to be different again. And what I'm realizing now is the superpower of it is I think trans people hold the key to allowing cis people to open up about gender on both sides because we're the only group that's experienced both. And
Yeah.
so to be able to speak as someone who is female presenting and lived as a woman in society for 35 years or 33 years, and then now know what it feels like to be in a male body and to be treated this certain way, I feel like I can kind of be a go-between between understanding what men don't have access to that women have and vice versa. So I think trans people, that's kind of our superpower of being able to, not many people get to live two full, complete lives, you know?
Yeah. Are there any, we're getting a little political here.
Yeah, we got it.
You got to get political. Are there any policies that you kind of want to either warn people about or encourage people to look further into?
Yeah, I mean, all of them. It's hard because as a trans person, you both have to pay attention because they're constantly trying to take away your rights. And at the same time, you just want to be a person and not have to pay attention to that. I think what I truly hope, trans people do not want our lives to be political. They are being made political against our will. Like, we just want to live just like everybody else. But people are trying to take our differences and make them scary to other people. What I hope a show like this does is show that, like, we're just dumb humans too. And like, we're also just trying to figure it out. We don't have the answers. And I think, the way to look at trans people maybe are as trailblazers of people who, because of our difference, are being forced to point out things in society that aren't really working for either group of people, And so in terms of laws, there's millions of laws, bathroom laws, sports laws, laws that don't allow changes. I mean, we could do a whole episode on transness of just like, it's still fucked up even in California. Like, in order to get gender affirming care, you have to basically get a diagnosis that says you're crazy, that you have gender dysphoria. Whereas like, if I was a woman and wanted to get size G tits right now, all I would need is money. No doctor's note saying like, this is why I need to get this done. But like, trans people have to jump through, a disadvantaged community already has to jump through so many hoops in order to be yourself. But the light at the end of the tunnel of transness and what I've been learning through this journey I just went to an all trans male camp, is that once you get to the other side, you now get to experience every day for me is becoming more and more myself. And I didn't realize how much dysphoria I was living with of just thinking that I was going to have to live with not being myself my whole life. And now every single day is like, oh, I feel more like myself. Like, and I would go through anything again to do it. Like, it's not fun to go through puberty and be like, have fucking acne again all over. But I'm like, that's all right.
Like, sure, I'll do it.
I'll do it.
I'll do it. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, well, thank you guys.
That's beautiful. Well, Ash, where can the people follow you?
People can follow me on, it's Ashley Perez. I still haven't changed my ITS, Ashley, no E, Perez. And I also have a Substack called What Are We Even Doing Here? That's about grief, pop culture, queerness, transness, all of that. So you guys can find my Substack. And you can find me right here on Second Try.
Wow.
Please join the streamer if you haven't, and join the Patreon if you haven't. And join the secret society if you haven't.
Bleep that. Well, thank you guys for listening to us. Make sure you are washing your hands, peeing after sex, voting for politicians that are making policies that are good, not just voting for the person. What else? Tip your servers. Wash your hands. Pee after sex.
Be nice to yourself.
Be nice to people. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.